Hello, everyone. This is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, coming to you live right here on the Express Entry Law Private Facebook group. We're back again for another EE Live Q&A. It's a beautiful day outside. If you look, you can see it's bright and shiny. The weather outside is so sunny. But guys, here in Canada, it is freaking cold. It is so cold outside. I think we were just spoiled this year. The winter hasn't been nearly as bad, but let's just see what the temperature is. Okay, well, right now it's showing about minus 21, but I can tell you it is so cold. I'm definitely not riding my bike to work in this weather. And as you can see, it's kind of funny. Like if you showed all these pictures over the last, I don't know, year, you can see how I slowly started putting more weight on, more weight on, more weight on. And I think I finally reached the end. I just love to eat so much. I've got to trim off probably another 30 pounds here, get back to a more healthy weight. But when it's cold like this outside, who in their right mind wants to exercise outside? And in Canada, you want to stay all nice and tucked in, nice and warm in front of the fireplace, maybe watching a little Netflix or something like that. But anyways, that is my life. So I'm super happy to be here. And I think I would try to show outside. I always try to turn my thing so you can see. It's kind of so bright that you can't quite see. You can't really get a good image there, but that's okay. The reality is it's just trust me, it's nice and snowy outside, and we were going to take the youth in our church tonight tobogganing or sledding, but unfortunately it's just too cold. So now my poor wife is scrambling trying to figure out what we're going to do with this youth group that we have, all the young men and young women that are part of it. So that should be quite fun and quite interesting. The title, I guess, of this EE Live Q&A is how not to screw up your translations. And this happens a lot, guys. And this is one of the things, I guess, the feature topic that I'm going to cover today, as well as answering a bunch of questions that have been sent in via email. And then last but not least, answering all of your live questions as we are moving forward with the most important part of this, which is the live Q&A session. And I don't know, maybe somebody else out there is doing these kinds of things like me. If they are, kudos to them, good for them. But as far as I know, I'm one of the few immigration lawyers out there that spends his lunch hour every Tuesday at noon to go on live and just teach people all about express entry. And guys, I don't hold anything back. I give you everything that I know. It's not like these presentations where people will give you just a very high level, but not really explain or give you answers that can help you. Well, that's not me. I am here to be of service to you, to help you, to make your express entry process just a little bit more predictable. Because it's crazy. It's so volatile. One little thing that's off and you're basically done. You know, you'll get your application returned, and it's been pretty cool. I'll be honest. It's been pretty cool to see the comprehensive ranking system scores actually drop down to 438. That is really, really cool. But it's not something I anticipated. But people just don't know. We don't know where the scores are going to be going. And so because of that, what do? Well, we have to make sure that we're not making any mistakes, because the smallest mistake could 100% result in your application being returned. And maybe the rounds of invitations never drop down to that level again. So please understand, guys, that, you know, at the end of the day, I'm only here to help. And I know that lots of you just want to file your own applications, and that is so cool. But I do want to give a shout out to all of the many, many people who book consults with me, who retain me to actually help them. I'm working with someone who just purchased the bronze package, which usually no one purchases, but this person just wanted me to review all their documents. And then I also have my silver plan, which I absolutely love. It is my favorite part of my practice, where you do your own application. You can use my guide for free. You complete everything, and then I go through and sit down, forensically go through all of your documents and spend time answering all your questions. And it is so much fun because as we're going through it together, I get to visit with you guys. I get to learn more about, your lives and your families, and we just become friends. And if I had any way of structuring my practice as an immigration lawyer, it would be to be able to do that for all applications that I do. After all, you guys care more about your application than anyone else, and you're going to make sure that everything is correct. And my job is to make sure that, notwithstanding your desires to make everything correct, that it actually works for immigration purposes. And it is awesome. I love it. So if you're interested in something like that, just connect with the link, book a consult, and it all starts from there. But regardless of all of that, I want to thank those people who do actually retain me as their immigration lawyer, because I act for people all over the world. Location is irrelevant. But I also want to thank all of you who don't purchase my services, but just come and join these groups. They're members of the Express Entry Law Facebook group. They subscribe to the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel. And because of all of that, I just want you guys to know how much I appreciate all of the support that you guys give. Okay, so I know that I'm just scrolling through here and I'm seeing a little bit of a delay in the feed, and I'm hoping that you guys are not seeing it on your end. Let's see here. Okay, so those of you, it looks like it is still going. So there's just I'm watching it on my screen and it's glitchy, guys. I don't have this team of technicians behind me. My screen is just kind of spinning here a little bit, so I'm hoping that it's still live on your end. Anyways, as I'm recording this and as I'm moving forward, take some time to just let me know where you're tuning in from, and post that in the comments below, because I always love that. Those of you who are watching this as a recording, you can always send your questions in via email and I'll answer those. And those who are watching it live, I want you guys to realize that you are important to me, because you are what makes this so much fun. And the reason it's so much fun is because this is where I can really prove that I know what I'm doing, that I am not just some schmuck, but that because of the knowledge that I have, I'm actually able to answer all of your questions live. And so that's the key. And I guess that's the modus operandi. That's why I do everything that I do. It's just to help. Okay, so some of you are already posting questions, which is great. I want you all to, like I said, list where you're listening in from, because I love that. And we've got a whole bunch of people that are already posting questions. Hold off on your questions, everyone, until I give you the green light, because we're going to go through the ones that were sent in via email first. And then after I've gone through those, then I'll spend the time to answer everybody's questions that they're now posting right now. So hold off for a second, hold off, and then I'll let you know when you can post them. Okay, let's see where we've got people listening. Okay, we've got Adada is watching from Germany. Cool, we haven't had someone from Germany for a while. Imran is the UAE. Joss, welcome back from Hyderabad. Geelong is from Christchurch, New Zealand. Very cool. Rajiv is also from Hyderabad, popular place. Carla is watching from Muscat, Oman. Very cool. There's some awesome places, guys. Isfahan is Pakistan. Isaac is St. Vincent and Grenadine. Very cool. Muniza is Karachi. Anato is UAE. Ayaz is Pakistan. And Katamba is Uganda, Africa. Awesome. So I'll stop there, just letting everybody know. And why do I do this, guys? All of you guys that are watching live, you can see the feed, so it's not an issue. But there is a number of people that watch these as recordings, and it's always cool to see where people are tuning in from. Wow, I can't help it. Harsi's Vancouver, Mario's Mexico, Afraz is Pune, India, Elisa is Vancouver. We've got Isfahan, Pakistan. Nitin is Punjab. Nisha is Chandigarh. Awesome. This is a fantastic group. I'm so excited to have all of you join me. Okay, let's start off right with the very first thing, which is how to avoid screwing up your translations. And this happens so easily. And you guys know how cruel immigration is. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to go straight to the wonderful site, which is the EE Completeness Check. And you can type in IRCC if you want. Obviously, Google's going to be smarter in your countries, but that's the source of all goodness. So I click on this, and it says applications for permanent residence programs subject to the express entry completeness check. These are the guidelines that help to indicate exactly how the documents that you provide for express entry are supposed to look. So let's go down here, and I'm going to scroll down till I get to translated documents right here. Okay, so I want everybody to focus in on the screen here, because there are some key aspects that people make mistakes with frequently. And whenever I'm doing my silver plan, my reviews, boy, I can't tell you how many times we're ready to file the application, and then I notice that the translation, the way it's done, the way it's presented, won't work. So let's just take a quick look right now. So understand, any supporting documents that are other than English or French need to be translated. Well, sometimes your document might have a portion of it in your home language, and then the rest may be written in English. Well, any portions that are not translated on whatever you're providing, that itself could trigger a refused application. So even things like headers, for example, on employer reference letters, if it's in the language of your home country and the letterhead is in that language, I may be going overboard, but I go out of my way to make sure even that's translated. Why? Because you're supposed to provide it on the letterhead with the address and the contact information for the business that you're claiming your work history from. So don't just accept that. So if you have an ability, get it translated. So anything that's not in English or French has to be translated. Okay, and then it says the applicant must provide IRCC, that's the new name, remember, for Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, with a copy of the original document as well as a version translated by a certified translator. Well, that's all great, but if you just read that and don't read any more, you could run into some huge issues. So here's what I want you guys to focus on. If you're using this supporting document, and it's going to be included with your express entry application, and it's in a language other than English or French, then you must, and I'm going to emphasize this, must provide IRCC with the English or French translation. Well, duh. You're obviously going to want to do that, and in every case you will, okay? And you can see here an affidavit from the person who completed the translation. So the person has to provide an affidavit stating, I am a professional translator. I've translated this, to the best of my ability from whatever language, Russian to English. Basically, that's the nature of the affidavit. But one thing that people forget more than anything else is right here, this last one, a certified photocopy of the original document. So what does that mean? Well, that means the copy itself has to be attested to by a notary public or something who can attest to the authenticity of documents, that the copy you're submitting is a true copy of the original. So you can't just scan in the document and include it, the original, with the translation that the translator did. You actually need to make sure that somewhere, someone, maybe it's the translator themselves, maybe they have the authority as a notary public as well, but they need to state somewhere that this is a certified copy of the original that I saw, that was presented to me, that my translation is from an original document that I saw, something along those lines. And that's what it means to be certified. If you go through this, provide the translation, provide the affidavit from the person, and then just upload a regular copy of the original document yourself, you could. I say could, because officers always have discretion to do whatever they want. But this could result in you getting your entire application returned for not providing a document in the format that IRCC asked for. One other tip I'll give you guys is that original documents, if you're going to get it scanned, do it in color. Don't do it black and white, okay? And that just adds one more air of authenticity to it, okay? So there's the tips. There's the information. That is how you can avoid screwing up your translations and getting your express entry application returned. All right. Okay, so that was the tip of the day. And I probably should create these as separate little standalones because it would make it a whole lot easier. So if you're tuning in and you wanted that answer, bang, it's right off the top of the thing. As far as what else is coming in this video, you should be able to see in the description little timestamps for the bulk of the questions that have been asked and today. And it should help you to be able to search down to the content that's most applicable to you that you want to know about. And you can also get a little bit of a summary of what's talked about, at least from the emails that come in via paper. It's too hard for me to keep track of the live questions. So if you want to find some little juicy nuggets or tidbits of goodness about Express Entry, then you're going to need to actually watch the whole video. All right, I'm going to take one quick look here. Okay, I'll go a little bit later today, but I've got a little bit of time. I had to see when my next consultation was. All right, so I think we're back, and I think I tested my audio already, so I know that it's all good. I am going to get my pen here and keep track of the timestamps for when I'm answering these questions. So the first one here at 1610, this is from Afraz. Okay, and I want you guys to know that I have not screened these at all. You could see I was late getting started. So the only thing I could do was to just mass print them all off. So if I look or I start reading this and one seems like, oh, this is too specific, or they're asking me to assess their eligibility, bear with me as I scrap them and bypass them because I never screened any of these. Okay, my name is Afraz. My question is regarding a change in circumstance, new pregnancy. Awesome. I just had a consult today with another couple who are expecting their very first, but they have TRVs to Canada. So they have the option potentially of traveling to Canada to even have their baby if they wanted to. Now, it's not something that I advise people to do, but they have flexibility. So the question is, I've submitted my application for Canadian PR in August, so August of 2018. Medicals were done in June. And I expect my passport request within the next 2 months. Okay, but there has been a change in circumstance in the form of a new pregnancy. After the passport request, we would be expected to land in Canada before June. Yes, because medicals, that's when the passport requests come. Medicals are typically valid for 1 year. We plan to have the delivery done in our home country, in which case we will not be able to land in Canada before our confirmation of permanent residence expires. What options do we have in these circumstances? Well, it's pretty simple. And this here, I can tell you, Afraz, is something that I advise clients with all the time. It's not something we can take up the whole EE Live Q&A to deal with, but the reality is you're right. You've completed the medicals, they do expire. You can cross your fingers and hope that maybe your application goes through and maybe you can actually come quickly and land in Canada and get that permanent residence before the baby is born. But the reality is, because if you're planning on having the baby in your home country, there's only one option, and that's to delay your landing and then include the child once the child is born. And then remember, whenever you're adding in a child, then that child has to have 4 things. They have to have a passport, they have to have the birth certificate, they have to have a photo, which is always entertaining trying to get a photo, a passport photo of a newborn baby, but that's a reality. And the final question, or the final component, is an immigration medical. So all of those things have to happen. And I tell all of my clients now that you can pretty much add on another 6 months when you're adding on a new baby before you land in Canada. So, and really that's the only option I would ever put, because if you choose to land without the child, so your spouse and you come land in Canada, then you go back to have the baby, well, the baby is not going to have any status. And so you're going to be potentially apart for a year or longer waiting for the child to get approved for permanent residence through a sponsorship, a family class sponsorship. So the only option that I can see for you is to actually, you're going to have to wait and be prepared. And when the baby when the due date comes, you'll need to let immigration know, especially when they ask for passports. If they ask for passports before the baby is born, I would send a letter to them and say, look, the baby's going to be born. It serves us no purpose to send our passports because we have to add that child to our whole confirmation of permanent residence, our family composition. So there you go, Afraz. If you want more details, I'm happy to connect with you and talk about that. But that is awesome. So that's a great question. What a sweet one to start with. Okay, next question here is from Ilyas. He says, Dear Mr. Holthe, first of all, I want to thank you for what you're doing. Watching your recorded live videos has been a daily habit of mine, and I really feel privileged to have access to such wonderful content. You are very, very welcome. That actually gives me increased motivation to keep doing these things. If people appreciate it, what I'm trying to do, it makes a huge difference for me. So thank you so much. That's very kind. Okay, last year I applied for a US visa through an agency. Dun, 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 agency. The agent filled out my DS-160 form, and lately I discovered that he made a mistake. Oh, surprise, surprise. So my question is, and I'm not going to address whether or not this agency was actually an immigration attorney for the US, who are the only ones that are authorized to assist with US immigration matters. I'll leave that for a separate discussion. In Canada, we authorize lawyers, consultants, but they have to be actually certified. So my question is, can that mistake cause any problem during my background check for express entry? Well, I can tell you that Canada has information sharing agreements with the US when it comes to immigration and things like that. And when you submit your express entry application, you actually agree to allow the government to make inquiries and to check in and share your information with these other partners of Canada. And so do they go and ask and search through past information from other countries to see if you're telling the truth now? Well, I can't think of any circumstance where an immigration officer would want to or have authority extended to the point where they would actually get copies of an application you filed to the US. I just can't see it happening. And like realistically, I guess anything is possible. But at the end of the day, in your situation here, the most important thing you can do is answer this question correct. So do not perpetuate the mistake because you want to keep things consistent. Answer everything within your express entry 100% correct, and then you can just go forward from there. If something crazy happens and they're inquiring about some question that was answered differently, well, then what's your answer? Well, I trusted an agent I never should have, and they made a mistake, and I didn't get a chance to even look at it, and I didn't realize that mistake was being made on my DS-160 form. But understand that's U.S. immigration. We don't care about it. All we care about is what you can control now. And you don't need to go into this long explanation or anything like that. Just answer truthfully, okay? Answer everything truthfully. And that's a lesson for all of you guys. If you ever have a representative that is advising you to not disclose something or to keep something secret because it might negatively impact your application, when to do otherwise would be a misrepresentation. In other words, to do so would not be telling the truth or telling the full picture. Fire that person, hire Stringham LLP, Mark here, and we can help you properly. Because 99% of the time, disclosing things is almost always going to be a direct benefit to you than withholding something that you think might be not good. Immigration is going to find out, guys. It's as simple as that. They are. And if they want to look at things, they want to search through things, they'll be able to find them. So don't lie. Just don't. Okay? And that's ethical as well as moral and legal. So it covers all three. All right. Excellent question. This one's from Carla. And Carla says here, we'll make sure we got the right time, for the proof of funds. Okay, proof of funds question. So do I really have to keep my money for 6 months in the bank? Who says that? No one says you have to keep your money for 6 months in the bank. Well, although I probably recommend that people have it in their bank account for 6 months, there's no specific rule. Or is it possible that I would just put my monthly salary in my account until I'd be able to save and accumulate the required proof of funds within 6 months, as I couldn't have the full amount right now? I'm about to start my EE profile, and I'm kind of hesitant to do it now as I don't have the required proof yet. I just have half of it so far. Carla, submit your profile. At the end of the day, the only thing that's going to hold you back, well, actually, let me qualify that. when you're doing your eligibility assessment, you need to have the minimum proof of funds. So that's just one of the requirements. So you have to be careful how you're answering it. If you're getting a gift deed from family, then that's fine. If you don't have that money and you're submitting a profile and you say you do, well, that could be seen as misrepresentation. And remember, if you're not putting in that you have the sufficient level of funds, then your profile, you're not going to be found eligible for express entry. So we've had some changes, but for a single individual, it's right around 13,000. It's a little bit less. You guys can search those up. But let's just get back for a second. I want to jump back to our lovely screen right here, and I'm going to find the proof of funds, funds section right here, and I'm going to pull this up. So this is what Carla is getting confused about. So Carla is saying right here that you need to have the money in your account for 6 months. And she's getting it from this right here, this letter that the government says you need to obtain. So it must be printed on the letterhead of the financial institution right here. Must include, of course, your name and the contact information for the financial institution. Then it has to have your account numbers, the date they were each opened, and the current balance. But this is where Carla is getting confused, as well as the average balance for the past 6 months. So that's all it means. It doesn't mean that you have to have all that money. Now, ultimately, understand that IRCC actually likes when they can see that you're saving it with your employment income over time, and that's how you've built it up, because then they know it's yours. It's not some money that you've borrowed from some high-interest extortionist who you're paying, this crazy interest rate. It's a loan, which is specifically prohibited. You're not getting it from a friend that's loaned you the money that you have to pay back. They even like it better than gift deeds, although gift deeds are fine as long as they're properly worded, that they're unequivocal gifts from typically a family member. Family give money, friends loan money. Not too many friends I know would just give you $13,000. But who knows? Maybe you've got a really close friend, but I wouldn't chance it with my clients. So in your situation here, it's a guideline. I always advise my clients, if you've got the full amount in your account for 6 months, then there's no doubt it's yours. Gift deeds as well. Just like I said, it depends that you've making sure that you've got the gift deed worded properly. But Carla, it's I think the biggest issue you have there is how to fill your profile in without actually having the money in the account, because that is one of the eligibility questions. All right. Okay. Good question, Carla. All right. Next question is Rabia. It says, I am sorry I've sent you so many questions this week. Okay, Rabia. In all honesty, I don't even notice, because the reality is I get so many questions, and I actually tried to jump on our group again this past week and answer questions to people who are posting within our Express Entry Law group. But guys, no one sees them. Only the 4 or 5 people that happen to see that exact post. So that's why I don't go on there, because it's just not a good use of my time. I would rather take those questions and answer them here, where, right now, live at a crazy hour, we've got over 50 people watching this just live. But then I know that thousands more will watch it later as a recording. So that's why I do these. And so please don't think I don't care about anyone who's posting within the group. That's not the case. I actually do scroll in and quite often answer people's questions directly, but they just don't have a very amplifying effect. That not many people see them, because with just about 20,000 people, and we were at 120, and I find it really interesting because actually I'll show you guys something here. If we go back to our group here, I'm going to back off. You can see here at the top, we have 119,510 members right now. Well, we were up to almost 121,000, I think, and then all of a sudden, all of these Facebook pages disappeared. Well, I'll be honest, I'm pretty proud about that, because that was a great cull. It was the great cull that Facebook did within groups for Facebook pages that were really kind of scammer pages. Well, for 1,000 to only have about 1,500 that were kind of scammer pages, I'm really proud of our moderators. We're very strict on who we allow in. For example, if I go here and I see, okay, who's wanting to join, if the person has answered these questions like that, I approve them. If they answer, approve. Answer, approve. You can see, right? If they're invited by someone else, I'll approve them if they haven't answered the questions. If they've been invited, I'll approve them. So all of those people are learning. If they want to get into the group, they're going to have to make sure that they answer those questions. And if they don't, or their answers are just goofy, then I don't invite them in. And that's all designed to make sure this group is of genuine, real people. Anybody, I could easily inflate this group to 500,000 if I wanted to, just from the simple method of just allowing every spammer, every agent, every lawyer, every person out there who's looking to sell something to a large group. If I opened it up, it would be a mess. But I don't. And that's why the growth has been very slow and steady, because the people that are coming in are actually just slightly more than the people who have benefited from the group and then are dropping out, because we lose lots that are already go through. They become permanent residents, they land, or they come into the group and they learn that they're never going to be eligible ever. And so then they're able to move on and maybe choose a different country or otherwise. So I just wanted to share that with all of you guys. So there we have it. So Rabia says, okay, back to the question that was actually asked. Okay, so Rabia says here, I want to ask if one's former employer, and actually I better make a note of this so I can timestamp these properly. Any of you guys want to work with me and be timestampers on my live Q&As, let me know. Okay, I want to ask, if one's former employer provides an employment letter for a position held a few years ago, is it still necessary to show pay stubs? Yeah, Rabia, if you go to the your personal checklist, when you have your ITA, you're submitting your eAPR, and you're going through the checklist, there's these little radio buttons, I call them, these little information buttons. If you click on it, it says to provide your reference letter with all of that essential information. And if I jump back, I'll show you here, even within our guide. And I always want you guys to know the source of where I'm getting this information so that you know you can trust me. Just because I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer, just because I was a former immigration officer, or that I'm on our national executive as the secretary of our Canadian Bar Association's immigration section, none of that means anything. Who cares? Where is the source of your information? Okay, so if we go here and I type in work experience, this is where the source of information comes from. So what should be included in the letter? It's right here. And so as long as your letter has all of these things, job title, duties, responsibilities, dates worked for the company, number of hours worked per week, and annual salary and benefits, then you're probably going to be fine. If you look here, you'll see it gives advice. If you work experiences in Canada, then you probably want to provide your notice of assessment. Okay. And so it describes that. So, but there's something missing from this one that is actually found within the personalized document checklist. In there it says provide the letter, like we've just looked at here, and that contains all of that content, and pay stubs if available. So Rabia, if your company is tiny, maybe it's not easily found on the internet, your supervisor who gave you the letter, you can't easily search them or verify that everything is legitimate. Or if your letter is missing income, so it doesn't list your annual salary, then in those circumstances, 100%, I would always include the pay stubs if available. But remember, for most people, if you've already met the minimum, the Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility, so that's a separate eligibility that many of you guys don't even know about. If you're outside of Canada, you actually have to meet that eligibility, which is essentially 67 points out of 100. If you meet that with only 3 years of work experience, then that's it. You don't need to provide proof of anything more than 3 years work experience, because that is the maximum number of years of foreign work experience that is going to help you to get comprehensive ranking system points. 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, those will help with getting more points under the Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility assessment for the selection criteria, but they don't give you any more points for CRS. So with this work history that you have here, Rabia, if you've got the pay stubs, then I would provide them. And in fact, if I'm providing pay stubs, that can get to be a lot of pay stubs. So often, if I don't have any real reason to be concerned that they won't believe that my work history is true, then maybe I'll put my first pay stub when I started work, and maybe the end of the pay stub at the end of that year, then the start of the next year, then the end of that second year, then the start of the third year, and then the last 3 pay stubs leading up to current. And it would be pretty hard for an officer to question whether or not that work actually happened if you provide that. That's a good sample size. It doesn't cause an officer to tear their hair out because they're looking through all these documents that are irrelevant. And I think they would appreciate it. Maybe. I guess I'll find out at our National Immigration Conference this year when I'm speaking with them on the panel for the Canadian Bar Association. Okay, Rabia, great question. Okay, next question is Nisha. Okay, Nisha, hope you're doing well. I just wanted to know if they find issues in your medical report. So what will be the next step? Does that delay the process? Also, will it stop any further processing of your application until medical is passed? Okay, I'm going to end right there with that question. It's a great one. Okay, right off the bat, I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to teach you something here. So when it comes to medical inadmissibility, that's really what we're talking about here. Nisha wants to know if there's a problem and someone is being potentially found to be medically inadmissible. I have a Canadian Immigration podcast right here. This is another resource that I have that many of you guys probably don't even know about. Every so often, I'll invite lawyers who are awesome at what they do, invite them to join me on my podcast to talk about various tricky aspects of immigration. So if I type in here medical in my search bar, I did an awesome little podcast a little over a year ago with a phenomenal lawyer by the name of Mario Bellissimo in Ontario. And this one right here is an episode that we did talking specifically about medical inadmissibility. And Mario is really a guru at this kind of stuff. And so this is a resource that I would turn you guys' attention to. And I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to find our live feed. And I'm just going to post it in the comment section. This is like really a jack of all trades here, trying to stay on top of all of this. So that is one resource that I want to point out to you guys. So you can always go to the Canadian Immigration Podcast and see if one of these other topics have been covered. But when it comes to medical inadmissibility, Nisha, answering your specific questions, if they find something that they feel may be a medical inadmissibility, they will send you something called a fairness letter. It's a letter saying, we've looked at your medical. The results suggest that you could be inadmissible to Canada. Tell us why you think you're not, and provide evidence to prove why you feel you wouldn't be or shouldn't be found medically inadmissible. And it is something that is very, very serious. You need to take it seriously because it can mean the difference between being eligible to immigrate and having your dream shattered. So in these cases, I rarely would want to go it on your own. I would always retain an immigration lawyer to help you navigate this situation. Yeah. And so the next question she says is, will it stop processing? 100%, without a doubt. It will not go anywhere. Okay. All right. Great question, Nisha. And of course, I'm going to have to go back and find the exact spot where I started that because I forgot to write down the list. Okay. Or write down the timestamp. Okay. Next one is from Harmeet. And he says, hello, sir. My question, I've submitted my EE application 5 days ago. Awesome. In EE application, I've uploaded my current valid passport, bio pages, and stamp visa pages. Okay. I have old canceled passports. Oh yes, I love these questions. These are my favorite of all time. And the reason I love them is because the confusion that exists on the internet is a lack of recognition that the rules and laws have changed with respect to a certain part of express entry. Those who never actually go back and read the rules or understand the regulations are always confused, and then they perpetuate these expectation that you have to do something that you used to be able to have to do, but now you no longer have to. Okay, well, that's pretty confusing. I know I'm talking in circles, but let me explain. So I have an old canceled passport, Harmeet says, which has many visa stamps. I have not uploaded bio pages and visa stamps pages of this old canceled passport. Can you please tell me that will my application be rejected due to this? Or is it fine if I didn't upload visa stamps pages of old canceled passports? Harmeet, I'm going to give you a little peace of mind, my friend. You do not have to upload your old passport with all your past stamps. You don't. I get this so often from clients. And in fact, some clients are so stuck on what they read on the internet that even when I tell them that they don't need to include them, they still want to include them. So guess what I do? I just include them because I don't care, whatever, if you want to, but you don't have to. And if you click on that little information button by your passport and by the passport upload section of your personal document checklist, you will see that it says provide the data page, essentially, with your name and your biographical information, that page of your passport from your current passport, and any pages with stamps or visa markings. That's it. Your current passport and all stamp pages. That is all you need to provide. Now, because I'm trying to be as helpful as possible and trying to educate everybody out there in internet land and all of those helpful groups that are doing nothing but causing grief for people, please understand that there is a history behind this requirement. And many countries like India, Pakistan, people would submit their applications and then they would come back and say, please provide your old passports and all stamp pages. And so people assumed that that was the standard and you always needed to do it. But there was a reason they used to do that. And the reason is because the rules for police certificates were different than they are now. Now, a person just needs to provide a police certificate from every country that they have lived in for 6 months in a row for the past 10 years. Well, before, in the old days, when these repeated requests for passports, old passports, all stamped pages for the old passports, that came from a time in which police certificates were required for every country that you had spent time in cumulatively. You can look up that word. That's adding all the days up. They don't have to be in a row. So cumulatively for 6 months in the past 10 years. So if you'd repeatedly gone to a country and visited that country, and you never stayed longer than maybe a week or 2 weeks at a time, but you went repeatedly back there over and over again, and cumulatively, so adding up all those days that you were there in the past 10 years, altogether, it made 6 months. Well, then you could be required to provide a police certificate for that country. And what's the consequence? If people didn't pay attention, then when officers asked for the old passport, people would send it in. The officers would tally up the days and say, you should have provided a police certificate from Pakistan when you were living in India, and you didn't. Therefore, you have not completed everything to make your express entry application complete. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to return your application because of that incompleteness, and you're going to have to start all over from scratch. Too bad, so sad, right? So there you go. So that's what it's all about. That is literally what this history of providing your old passports, that's where it came from. Guys, ignore it. Forget it. It's a complete waste of time. If an officer chooses for some reason to ask for something like that, well, yeah, they can do it. And yes, it might add some days on, I guess. But the only reason that they would have to ask for that is if somehow they thought you were an Al-Qaeda warrior and you were actually in some other country and you had not put those dates in your travel history. You know, it's kind of hard to refuse an Al-Qaeda warrior by proving that they're an Al-Qaeda warrior. It's much easier to refuse for misrepresentation in an application failing to indicate that you actually went to a country than otherwise. But understand, guys, that's probably 0.0000001% of all applicants. Okay? All right. Hopefully that made sense, Harmeet. Great question. All right, Ali, let's get to yours. So Ali says, once in Saudi Arabia, I went out of my home at 4 a.m. in the morning to eat something. A police vehicle stopped by me and took me to the police station. This is an awesome one. I don't know if I can answer this one, but the story is so appealing. I've got to read it. Let's see here. Okay, so a police vehicle stopped by me and took me to the police station. They kept me and many other young boys there for 4 hours, checked everyone's identification documents, and gave a verbal warning to not go out on the road after 3 a.m. No case was registered against me. I also have police clearances from Saudi Arabia mentioning no criminal record. I want to be as truthful in my application as possible. Should I declare the above mentioned in the statutory declarations while filing my eAPR? No, Ali. The reality is when you, oh boy. You know what? This is a really, really good question. I wonder. Do you know what? I'm going to stop. Okay, give me a second. While I'm visiting here, I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to take a look at the exact wording. And let's see, I might even be able to show it. If you guys hang in there for a second, this is actually a really important question because I can't remember exactly how it's worded. Clearly, that would never make you, Ali, inadmissible to Canada in any way. Any foreign offense, if committed outside Canada, has to equate to something that if you did it in Canada, it would actually result in you becoming, how do you just, well, it would result in you being convicted of an offense in Canada. So it has to have the same elements of that offense. Let's just see here. I'm just looking to see if I have anything that I can pull up with respect to the statutory questions. Just give me a second. And of course, I don't, because I've got a whole bunch of applications at the eAPR stage I'm working through. But usually once I get to the document checklist stage, I've already submitted the application. So I don't have that. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to see if I can find, let's see if I can find these. Give me a second. I don't know if I can find it. Do you know what? I'm not going to waste any more time here. Ali, I'll tell you that in every case, there is no problems with disclosing, okay? But I'm going to maybe post in the comments, but in every case, there's no harm in disclosing something like this because technically you were arrested, you were detained, you were never convicted, you were never charged with anything. It was purely a detention for something that would never happen in Canada. So it's not even going to register, but I can't remember specifically what the wording is. If any of you guys have that and can post the wording for those two questions in the statutory declaration section, that would be really helpful for me, but I don't have time to look them up right now. So, but for you, Ali, there's no harm in indicating that in your background declaration, because it's not going to amount to anything. It's not. Some people, when you do answer questions like this, it automatically triggers the need for a more fulsome answer, completing this formal background declaration and those kinds of things, but not always. Officers will be able to look and say, oh, this doesn't equate, and they won't. But if someone discloses something that could potentially be something that would make them inadmissible to Canada, even though the police certificate doesn't say anything about it, like yours does in Saudi Arabia, no criminal record, it's always up to an officer to be able to ask those questions. But you never want to err on the side of being, withholding information. I'm always a proponent of actually posting. But in your situation, this is not going to make you criminally inadmissible. The only thing that it's going to do, at the very worst, is maybe have an officer ask for more information, which ultimately will only delay the application. But understand it won't impact on your ability to immigrate to Canada. Okay. Great question. All right, so let's go here. Next question. This one is from Bilal. He says, I've done 4 years of electrician engineering. I already answered this one. This one I had from last year. From last one. I think I maybe copied that one. I wonder if I answered this one as well. Let's see. Let's see if I have any others. I think we might be done, guys. I think, yes. Each of these ones I actually answered in the previous one. I couldn't remember how far down, so I printed off a whole bunch. All right, you patient souls, you individuals out there that have been so kind and so patient in waiting for me, you are now at the stage where you can ask me those live questions. So in the comment section, fire away, post them, and then I will do my very best to answer these for all of you fine folks. Now, be patient with me because sometimes when the comments all come pouring in, it's difficult for me to keep track of all of them. But now in the comment section of our EE Live Q&A here on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group, this is where you YouTubers who are watching, if you want to participate live, this is the best way to do it. Now, I did see that there was potentially a way to do a YouTube video live. And so I'm going to look into that a little bit. But one of the reasons I like keeping it in our group is because then I don't have to worry about spammers and people coming on and posting goofy comments and distracting me when I'm trying to do it. Because if I did it on YouTube, guaranteed there would be a lot of trolls, just trying to disrupt and cause problems and everything. And so because of that, yeah, let's soldier forward. Okay, let's see. The first question that I have here, let's see where we can start, because I know a whole bunch of just automatically appeared here. Okay, there's my comment. Okay. Okay, let's start with Rinkesh. So Rinkesh says, I have CRS of 395 with the spouse's score added to my profile. And if he doesn't include his spouse, it's 420. Is it advisable to apply with the second scenario? What are the chances of receiving OINP with 420? I have 10 years of experience as an information technology analyst. Please advise. I'll be honest, Rinkesh, I think your odds are really low. So 420 is, we haven't gone down that low in so long. You're still going to put your profile in. You're still going to include it. If you want to maximize your score, yeah, you're going to list your spouse as non-accompanying. Because 395 just won't reach that range. And if you have no other connections with Canada, you're going to be pretty hard pressed. Okay, Manbir says, my accompanying spouse is claiming points for 1 year Canadian work experience. Does he need to show the last 8 years of work history? No, all that he needs to show is just the Canadian work experience. No, if he's the accompanying spouse, he's not getting any points whatsoever for foreign work experience. So don't waste your time, because if you put that into the work history for the spouse, then it's going to indicate that you have to provide a reference letter in the document checklist. And it is a hassle. It really is. So don't do that. Don't waste at all. Even if you can get the letters, who cares? The key is only Canadian work experience. That's all that a spouse should really include within express entry. And if you remember the wording, some people are like, what are you doing, Mark? You shouldn't counsel people to misrepresent and not say what their work history is. Give me a break. The express entry profile and the eAPR say, tell us about the work history that you want us to assess for the purposes of comprehensive ranking system scores. It's not tell us your whole history about work. Your personal history accounts for all of that back 10 years. So that's where you list all of your work history. Okay, Hassan says, hi, Mark. Hi, Hassan. Anand says, hi, Mark. I hope you're doing great. Did the RPRF request from CIC signifies that your eligibility is passed? Could you enlighten us with your answer? Thank you so much, Anand. Okay, they're never going to request your right of permanent resident fee, which is the last portion, until they're satisfied that you've met the eligibility requirements. Because there's no point in asking for that fee unless they're prepared to issue the visa. So Anand, although I can't speak to your situation, and there could be glitches in the system, there could be a whole host of reasons why the request is triggered, understand that 99% of the time that means you've passed eligibility. Okay. Sukumar says, hi, I lived in Italy for 4 years. I visited some neighboring countries for a day trip and don't even remember the dates. And I forgot to mention, I only mentioned the dates with stamps, and I don't have any record of the day trips with friends and cars. How should I inform CIC already? It's 4 months I applied for PR. Okay, so Sukumar, so you're basically now concerned because you didn't list all of your trips to those little countries in Europe where you don't need passports or things like that, where you just traveled across the border, there's no documentation, and now you're worried. You're thinking, oh, I didn't list all my travel history. Well, the reality is, my friend, create a spreadsheet, identify the days that you forgot or didn't include, and then just do a case-specific inquiry, upload them, and disclose it. Simple as that. It may or may not have an effect on your application. You always need to answer everything true and correct. So it's up to the officer how they want to deal with it. It's unlikely that they would refuse your application, but I would update your information if you failed to include something. Many people would say, oh, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Well, give me a break. This is your life. This is your ability. It may be your one shot at immigrating to Canada. And I'm not taking any chances. I'm not leaving any possible discretion in the mind of an officer as to whether or not they want to allow your application to go forward. So because of that, I'll do everything in my power to give them exactly what they want. Okay, Mohammed says, guys, I just want to know, did Mark answer about job continuity? I mean, what if there's a gap for 1 week? This is a great question, especially for people who are working in one country and then go home to visit family. If your vacation or the gap is if it's just a vacation with a current employer and that time away is paid, like a paid vacation, so that's totally fine. Like you can get away with, 3-4 weeks, whatever, if you're being paid and it's a paid vacation. But if it's unpaid, then it's up to the officer. 1 week is usually not a big deal. If you've got a week off and then you just take a little vacation and then you come back and you're still working for that same company. But that can, obviously, if it's unpaid, that's the key. All right. Good question, Mohammed. So I didn't answer that one. Okay. Anatolius says, let's see what we got here. Okay. Dear Mark, thank you for helpful videos. Your group is the best source of information. Thank you, Anatolius. Could you please clarify the question on the subject you talked about in the beginning? Can the university certificate, the photocopy of original, if it is education document, for example, can the university certify the photocopy? Yeah, I don't care. It just has to be a certified copy. Whoever has the legal authority to do that in the country is totally fine. How can an immigration officer accept stamps from other countries? Does she have a database in which the officer can check how they should look like? Thank you. This question troubles me from the very beginning. Okay, I'm assuming this all comes down to your the translations and the stamps that some translators give. They will give the benefit of the doubt to you. Okay, so if the person is truly someone that is authorized to do it, and it's not someone who just fabricated this fake stamp and really doesn't know how to translate and just made up your letter, from scratch, well, that's a different story. But officers will trust and they will accept generally the stamps of foreign translators, and they don't go investigating into that unless they have a reason to. They're gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. Okay, next question. Hi, Mark. My question is about proof of funds versus outstanding debts and mortgages. Our situation is we will have sufficient funds that IRCC asked for, but I'm worried about our mortgage. Could it create an issue here? Can you clarify? That's a great question. No, mortgages are not a problem. Asset-backed debt are rarely a problem. Cars, loans for vehicles, things like that. Because when you go, you're going to sell them. You're going to liquidate it. But even then, when it comes to debt, they don't look at the debt, the full amount of the loan that you owe on, or the full amount of the credit card balance, and then cancel that away. So debts canceling assets, they don't do that. What they look at is everything holistically. Okay, what are the payments made? If your house is a $5 million house and your monthly payments, mortgage payments are $20,000 a month, and you only have $20,000 in your account, well, maybe they would look at that and say you probably don't have sufficient funds to settle in Canada. But generally speaking, mortgages are not an issue. They're not. Okay, Faraj says, I submitted my PR application right after my consultation appointment with you. Okay. Oh yeah, Faraj, we had a consult. Awesome. He says, I couldn't do it without your help. Thank you very much for your time and all your precious advice. Congratulations for being recognized as the best lawyer of the year. Thanks, Faraj. That was something that Best Lawyers is an organization that polls other lawyers and gets them to vote on who they feel basically is, knows what they're doing and that they respect. And it is somewhat of a popularity contest, really, to a large extent. But it means a lot when your peers are saying that you're a good lawyer and they know, they trust you and they believe you know what you're doing. And that's really what that Best Lawyers was. And so, so that was an award actually that I take really seriously, and I'm very, very grateful for, because it means something when your peers are voting on it. Okay, he says you really deserve it. I've never met a lawyer who loves his job, very precise, really cares about all small details like you. You treat your clients like friends. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best. I should have brought Faraj on here as a guest. Obviously, my goal is to have every single one of my clients just like Faraj Omar. And on rare occasion, I have unhappy clients for a number of reasons. Either they feel I'm not able to meet their demands in terms of responsiveness or things like that. But I like to think that those experiences are small. And I think I told everybody I've only had one application where a client has asked for their money back. And that was a situation that I felt just terrible about. In our office, we had uploaded a black and white copy of this client's German police clearance. She'd provided a color to us, but because we had to break the package down to fit into each of the sections, Then when my assistant, who's no longer with me, she uploaded it by accident, a black and white copy, and it got the whole application returned. And it lost that client about a month. It wasn't catastrophic. I immediately refiled the profile and we would have resubmitted everything, and she would have been out about a month and a half. But because of our mistake, she wanted to just do it herself. So I gave her all of her money back. And so that's how I operate, guys. Definitely not perfect, but I definitely strive to and do my very best to try and make all of my clients feel like they're my friend, like they're family, and we truly care about them. And yes, I do love what I'm doing. Okay, Sonia says, I accidentally withdrew my profile. Should I use the same GCKey to make new profile or a different GCKey? Just use the same. It's not a problem. Resubmit the profile. Not a problem, Sonia. Omer says, hi, Mark. Hi, Omer. I'm doing good, my friend. Kopal says, I have sufficient liquid funds for my family as proof of funds. I also have an auto loan in the US in my name and a home loan in India in my husband's name. Should I be providing statements on these loans, and will it have any impact on my proof of fund value? That's a great question, Kopal, because I just answered it. You have an obligation, and when we look at the proof of funds, I'm actually going to take this time just to share my screen with you guys again and show you right here, and we're going to go find proof of funds right here. You'll see that it specifically asks to provide official letter that lists all current bank and investment accounts, as well as outstanding debts, such as credit card debts and loans. So if that's the case, the way I read it, yes, you provide all of that information. To not would be just ignoring what they were specifically asking for. But ultimately, like I identified already, when it comes to how they assess it, you don't need to worry about it. The reality is they're going to take everything in context, and your car and your home, they're gonna take all of that into context. I don't know if you're planning on ultimately liquidating those assets or not, but they're not going to be a straight calculation of, okay, because you have this much money in loans, it's going to cancel out directly how much money that you've actually got saved for your proof of funds. It doesn't work that way. Okay, let me see if I can catch up. There is so many questions, you guys. This is crazy. Okay, I think I found it here. And if I don't get to your question, please forgive me. All right. Let's see, how are we doing for time? We're already at 1 hour. That's okay. I'm going to go into bonus time for all of you guys that have stuck it out. We still have 48 people. No one's left. It's actually really cool. I'm going to go through and continue answering questions probably for another 20 minutes or so here. So hang in there, guys. All right. Okay. Okay, so that's your answer, Kopal. So you can, as far as the loans, it says that you're supposed to disclose them. And if you want to provide an explanation, just saying, yep, these are the minimum payment, it doesn't really impact, you can also do that too. Okay. Omer says, can you please advise what reason can I write for changing my funds? I'm assuming this is the amount of funds that you have, Omer, from when you submitted your application or your profile to when you file your eAPR. You don't need to worry about it. The date that you submit your eAPR, that's when your funds will lock in. And so then you'll put the amount that you have. And then the time period from when you submit your eAPR till you actually become a permanent resident. Yes, you have an obligation to maintain those funds, but sometimes it fluctuates a little bit because often it's funds that you live on. But as long as you have it at the time when you file your application and when you land in Canada, those are the two times when you have to demonstrate it. So I would highly recommend not taking any of the money, but just keep it in there all the time. But it's likely not going to be fatal. And so as far as writing for changing your funds, you don't need to write about that. Okay, Rajiv says, my GCMS note says unacceptable Indian police certificate for the spouse. Police certificates have been issued by an incorrect issuing authority does not meet R10 requirements. How do I convince IRCC that this was not the case? PCCs were indeed issued by the right authority. Rajiv, we've talked about this one, and I honestly can't speak to it. When it comes to what constitutes a correct Indian police certificate, I don't have enough industry knowledge on the ground to understand the nuances that you're talking about. So I'll be honest, I followed the specific instructions that are on the IRCC website. If for whatever reason, what you're providing is not matching up with that, then I'll be honest, I've never had a client run into these issues in the way that you've described here, Rajiv. And so I don't know how to deal with this. I honestly don't. I wish I could help you. It's something that I can take and then move forward. But I'll circle back with you and we'll talk more about that, because I know this is something that's been really distressing for you. Okay, Sarah says, I've been working as an online freelancer, okay, a remote administrative assistant, so a VA, since 2014 for several U.S. clients. I'm not considered, oh, do you know what? This one is pretty large, Sarah. Okay, let's see if we can go through this quick here. Okay, yeah, you're not a regular employee, you don't have the benefits. If there's no contract, no contract, okay. However, I work for them full-time and my clients are willing to send me a certificate of employment. Is this considered a valid work experience? Well, your job is to prove it. And whenever you're working freelance, remember, you have to meet those minimum requirements. Continuous full-time employment at a skilled level that's paid for 1 year at least is the minimum threshold. And that time period has to be at least 30 hours a week for full-time, a minimum of 1,560 hours for that year. And so it's your job to be able to prove that. And whenever you're doing freelance, it's always a challenge. And so you have to show or justify that, yeah, you're not just working bits and pieces. Otherwise, you won't meet the minimum entry criteria for the Federal Skilled Worker Program. And so let's see. So you say, is digital COE with their scanned signature acceptable? I want to save my clients the inconvenience of sending me COE via post. It takes too long. You can use a digital copy of the reference letters. You don't need to have an original signature. As long as they're in English. If they're in a different language other than English or French, then yeah, the translation rules apply. Yeah. And then as far as question 3, I won't go through that one because I need to move on to other people. But yeah, self-employment, you need to be able to prove it. Simple as that. As long as it meets the requirements, it can work. If there's no contract, well, that's just one more indicia of whether or not it's real. And it just comes down to every individual is different. I do tons of consultations with people who are trying to prove their self-employed work experience. One of the more common ones that I do. Okay, this one's from Shah. I'm from Bangladesh. Is it okay to have 3 times more money than what is required on my bank account? I'm a full-time employee on a company, but I also earn money from freelancing project basis. Is that fine for CIC? I think what you're saying is 3 times more than the proof of funds. Yeah, Shah, if you have more than that, sure. The key is just that you have the minimum proof of funds that Express Entry requires. Okay, Kasim says, hello, Mark. I am in Saudi Arabia and my visa states that I am labor in Saudi Arabia, but I'm working in a company as a network technician. So if I get experience of a network technician, will my visa create problems for me? Nope, not at all, Kasim. It doesn't matter what Saudi Arabia, how they list your status in that country, it's irrelevant. If they don't list your proper title or anything, all of that's irrelevant. You know, they can do whatever they want. You're using your reference letter to substantiate your work history. Masref says, I'm from Bangladesh. I have received an ITA. Congratulations, January the 10th. Very cool. I'm wondering if it's okay to travel outside the home country after submitting an eAPR. Do I have to change my travel history after returning from abroad? After you submit your eAPR, everything locks in. You don't need to worry about it. You don't have to update. The only thing that I would update is your address. If it's the mailing address on your application, you would want to update that just so that IRCC can maintain contact with you. But everything, all the other information is locked in at the stage in which you submit your eAPR. Okay. Mohammed says, Mark, I just joined your live video now. I have a question. There's a point of continuity in at least 1 year. What if I have 3 jobs in 1 year with 1 week gap each? Mohammed, I'll be honest, my friend. I can't, that's going to be entirely up to the officer whether or not they consider that that 1 week gap as being an issue. Remember, it all has to be in the same NOC code. So I'm assuming that that's the case for this, and that you're working 30 hours and meeting all the other requirements. At the end of the day, you have an obligation to be truthful in your application. I wouldn't necessarily worry about, clearly spelling things out, but if that's work experience that you need to rely on, then all you can do is make your pitch. Right? And then it's up to the officer. In terms of that 1 week, I've had a lot of different feedback from officers as to what's considered to be a break in continuity and what isn't. But clearly, if you've got 3 separate jobs, the key is that they are all in the same NOC code, and then it's up to that officer. So I can't really say exactly what's going to happen. Okay. Okay. Yoshi says here, Yash, hello, my friend. He says, hello, Mark. Thanks for all your help for these free Q&A sessions. I have a question understanding the requirement mentioned for express entry. Okay. And this is Yoshi's question relates specifically to work experience, at least 1 year continuous. Okay. Does work experience with different employers under the same NOC code fulfill the above requirements? And this seems like it's the exact same scenario almost of Muhammad right before. Every situation is different. And I'll be honest, Yoshi, I'm not going to be able to answer this question right here because I would need a whole lot more information to understand in order to answer your question. Every work history is different. And when you have various employers, in your example here, you're not indicating how much time there's in gaps between the employment. And so it's always better to have at least 1 year, meaning that 1 year continuous first. And then once you've got that 1 year of continuous full-time work experience, you can then at that stage add in separate work histories like you have here, employer A 3 months, employer B 5 months, employer C 4 months. But I would always want to only rely on that as secondary work history. So once you've got that 1 year continuous with one employer, then you can use little bits and pieces from other employment, even in other NOC codes, for example, as your work history for the purposes of your comprehensive ranking system. Okay. Charles says, hi, Charles. Miriam says, I mentioned my membership in a local political party in my PR profile. May it be an issue for me or might it lengthen the processing of my PPR? Thank you so much. Miriam, local political parties are rarely going to be an issue at all. They're only concerned if you're part of an organization that would be considered terrorist-like or advocating armed struggle or, violence, those kinds of things. So just saying that you're a member of a political party isn't going to, of necessity, cause any delays at all, unless the political party is one that is classified as being violent or something along those lines, a terrorist-type organization. Okay, Joss says, Mark, my birth certificate itself have direct translations for every field. There's text in both native language and English. Still, should I get it translated? No, Joss. If many of these birth certificates come in both in the native language and then English, and there's English representing every foreign piece of information on that birth certificate, that is totally fine. So don't worry about that at all. Okay, Faraj says, I submitted my PR application right after my consultation. Thank you. That's a repeat. Faraj posted it twice. Thank you so much, my friend. Very kind. Okay, maybe I've skipped here somehow. Nope. Ali says, I've received my biometrics instruction letter today. However, I didn't get an MEP update. My AOR is 24th of December. Is getting biometrics instructions letter before MEP fine? I'm asking because people get BIL and MEP on the same day. Ali, please understand, I never ever worry about all of the stages that are within the GCMS. So the Global Case Management System has different stages that your express entry application navigates through. And obviously, Ali, you've followed them carefully. You're managing everything. Please do not give those things a second thought. Every application processes, it progresses at different speeds. And so it just causes undue stress for people when it doesn't need to. Some applications just take longer than others. And so when it comes to this, Ali, I'm not worrying about that. I'm not at all. Okay. Rabia says, cic.gc.ca states, and I'm assuming you mean immigration.ca now, in the last 10 years, how many total years of foreign skilled work experience do you have? It must have been paid full-time in only one occupation. Can you please clarify this? If experience is 1 year in one NOC and 10 months in another, does it count? Yes. Rabia, the rules for the Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility are linked specifically to the minimum entry criteria for the Federal Skilled Worker Program. The minimum to get into the program, which you have to meet, the eligibility, is 1 year continuous in the same NOC, skilled, paid, all those things. Once you've got that 1 year, like you've listed here, then you can add in other work experience in another NOC. Now remember, if you only have 10 months in that other NOC, you're only still going to get credit for 1 year. You actually have to have the full additional 12 months to get up to the 2-year level. Okay, great question. Rinkesh says, can the experience gained while working on an ICT transfer in Canada be counted as Canadian work experience and claim the extra points? Absolutely, Rinkesh. And when it comes to job offers, you get points, either the 50 for a skill level 0A or B and 0 below a 00 NOC. You get 50 points for that skilled work and 200 if you're a senior executive level or senior manager with a 00 NOC. Those points are absolutely awarded to intercompany transfers. The key is you need to have been working for the company for 1 year before you're eligible to then be given a job offer letter to use for the purposes of express entry and getting those additional job offer points. Great question, Rinkesh. Okay, Ayesha says, hi Mark, it's been 10 months since I submitted my profile. No update yet. Ordered notes, found that eligibility, security. Okay, I'm assuming you meant submitted your eAPR here, Ayesha. So no change, has not been started. My doesn't respond to emails. My LVO, NDVO doesn't respond to emails or calls. What do I do? I don't understand what LVO or NDVO means. Ultimately, if you've got an application that's stalled out, then I can, as being in Canada, I can request, I can call the call center, figure out what the issues are. But yeah, it's hard to say. I can't speak to why it would be stalled out. Some countries, the security screening that happens on the back end, your country doesn't cooperate well with IRCC and it's difficult for them to verify. And sometimes those delays are not a part of immigration. Now, I'm also assuming maybe at some point in time, did you have to follow up with them? Did they come back and ask for additional information or anything like that? Because the moment IRCC asks for any additional information, it's going to result in the 6-month processing timeline, their service level standard, being tossed out the window because those service level standards of 6 months only apply if they don't need to request anything from you, any additional information. Okay, Mohammed says, thank you, Mark. You answered the question. You're very welcome. Gautam says, hey, Mark, I've submitted my EE profile yesterday, CRS 436. Okay, what are my chances? No Canadian experience. Gautam, oh boy, I was telling people anything under 440, you had no chance, but it has dropped to 438. Maybe miracles can happen. There's sure a lot of people at that level, though. A lot of people. So I can't say for sure, but submit your profile and hang tight. Remember, the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program still does reach out and extend invitations to people based on the human capital priority stream. So anything can happen. All right, Mohammed says, I have 2 jobs. The first job from 2008 to 2013 and second from 2013 to now. But I want to claim points for my second job only. So do I need to provide experience letters or documents for both jobs? No. If you're only claiming if you only want to claim points for your second job from 2013, well, how many years is that? 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 now. You already have 6. There's no point. Do not list that first one in your work history unless you take a look and see which one is actually going to give you the best reference letters. So that's something you have to consider. It doesn't do you any good to restrict to just one employer if the reference letter you get back is garbage. So you want to balance that. So that's a factor you look at. But generally speaking, remember, we're 2019 now. So your first job from 2008 and into 2009 is already dropping off because you can only claim the past 10 years of work experience. Okay, Manbir says, I'm filing an EE application in federal skilled worker here in Canada, but in next 2 months, I will have to move to India for job joining. My file would be in IP1, 2-stage. I'll have to update the address or anything else too, as I'm currently on no pay leave as per my employer policy for a year. We'll have to join back in 2 months. Manbir, I highly recommend you book a paid consultation with me because if you're under the federal skilled worker program, you could have issues. The object under that, at least it just depends on how they're treating your experience and everything. I don't know if you have a job offer here or anything associated with this. I actually recommend, Manveer, that you do book a paid consultation because I can't answer that. There's too many levels to it. And leaving in the midst of work, it may not have an impact, but I just can't tell. Okay, Sukumar says, thanks. Kushbu says, in Express Entry profile, my husband is a main applicant. I'm a dependent. Okay, can my brother be added independent in profile? If not, then what is other way to get my brother here? So short answer, Kushbu, is no. Your brother isn't considered to be a dependent that can accompany you. Only spouse or dependent children. And under the family class, there is no category for sponsoring a sibling. So the options are really, really low for having your brother. You would probably need to qualify independently. Depending upon if there's no family in that foreign country, there might be some opportunities to sponsor if he's the last relative and the only one there. But that would require a much more fulsome examination of your family composition. Okay. All right, Bapasha says, hello, sir. Is it that every member needs to take the medical exam together? Can't the other members do it first if it's not possible for the primary applicant to take on the same day? It all comes down to the doctor. Generally speaking, they like to include and have everybody together, but I'm not aware of a rule that says only the principal applicant, that the principal applicant has to be there when all the other people get their medicals done. In fact, I've got lots of clients that have had a principal applicant go do their medical and then other people do theirs on another day. So it may be just your panel physician is giving you grief, but there's no hard and fast rule that I'm aware of. Okay, Muhammad says, thanks, Mark, for your reply. Razib says, when I landed from the US, my car was in my goods to follow list. They have accepted it. However, they told me I have to fill out a Form K-12 or something before driving it to Canada, which I'm not exactly sure of. Do you know anything about this? Razib, no. Ultimately, I'd contact the CBSA, the Canada Border Service Agency, and ask them. But congratulations on getting your permanent residence. That's super exciting. Rinkesh, can we submit more than one profile from the same GCKey? Rinkesh, don't do it. It's a waste of time. Oh, I see what you're saying. If you withdrew one, then yeah, resubmit another one. But you can't submit more than one at the same time. Yeah, you have to have it. You can't have more than one. Well, you would never want more than one operating. It doesn't serve any purpose. It's just going to cause huge problems. So just cancel or withdraw the one and resubmit a new one if you need to make changes. Understand, if you need to make changes with your profile, you can always go back and update information. So there's no point to having multiple profiles. None. I'm going to get a drink here. I've been talking for a long time. We are, wow, an hour and 20 minutes. Okay, I'm going to go through a few more and then we're going to wrap up. I'm starting to see the same people getting questions in here, and so I want to give everybody a chance that hasn't had a chance, and so bear with me. Okay, all right. Shamil says, hi Mark, my husband and I completed our biometrics in early December. Since then I've been in IP2 with no further change. Should I be worried? No. I don't know why you would be. Ultimately, if acknowledgement of receipt happened in October, 6 months is the processing time. You're well within it still. Okay, Razib, I'm going to have to answer your questions after. They relate all to PR cards, which is kind of outside of the scope of what we're talking about here. So I'll try to connect with you after. Let's see. I'm just skimming here to find ones that are going to be good. Okay, I think, guys, we're going to end right here. It looks like I had a good chance to get to a lot of people's questions, which is, yeah, it was a great EE Live Q&A today. It went a little bit longer, but I just wanted to really give back. I also wanted to let you guys know that I am super excited about a whole new platform that I'm creating for my Canadian Immigration Institute, where I'm going to house everything kind of in one place. And it's going to be all my courses. I'm looking at creating a bunch of new courses on immigration and a new website and just a whole new way for people to consume all the different things that I offer. Links to the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel, to my podcast, and a bunch of cool things. All of my new programs and new offers and all those kinds of things are all going to be in one platform. And so I'm having a lot of fun creating my own website, something I haven't done before. So I'm pretty excited about it. Anyways, I want to let everybody know how much I appreciate all of those who took the time to tune in. We had a wonderful, wonderful turnout for the EE Live Q&A today. So thank you so very much. And last but not least, I want to do a shout out to my good friend and client Igor, who was the designer of the actual notification. And I'll share my screen here. Right here, this notification, Igor drafted, he built that for me, and he and sent it to me. And I think it just looks awesome. I'm so grateful. That's what makes this group so awesome and so cool is that people are so willing to share. And it's just this whole concept of giving. And when you give, people then in turn want to give back. So thanks so much for tuning in. I also want to just jump on here really quick and just remind everybody, if I can find it here, right there, that this, as always, is sponsored by the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. And all of you guys can have access to that at a fraction of the cost that it would cost to hire me or someone else. And just like this video you're watching right here, I walk you through step by step every aspect of this Express Entry process in a video format. In fact, last night, I just finished updating 2 more videos for the eAPR section for spouses. And understand, guys, it's really tricky to do it because I have to manually go in and gray out the client information who graciously grant me permission to use their eAPR to record it. But I have to gray out their names because it's automatically embedded in the actual eAPR. And so I don't want to disclose any of that confidential information. So those videos on the eAPR section actually take me a long time to do, to edit and then to release. So I'm going through and updating all of the spousal ones because they need to be updated. All the principal applicant ones I've already done and uploaded those. But it's a challenge. It takes a long time. But it is totally worth it. And the people who are subscribing to the course, who are going on, they are choosing to purchase a monthly subscription or a lifetime access. Like, you guys can go on and you can see all of the many people that have been kind enough to give me. Let's see if I can find this here. They've been kind enough to give me testimonials. But if you go here to this site, and I'm going to actually go back because I always forget to take this off. Right here, you can go in, and I'm going to give you guys a little tip. You can click on, make sure it's one-time lifetime access, and you click on enroll. And then when you're here, I'm trying to remember if I can remember the coupon now, add coupon, and I think it is this it? No. I can't remember what the coupon is now. Oh boy, I can't remember. I'm gonna have to post it in the comments. Anyways, I will give you guys who are watching the access to the coupon code. And those of you who are watching via the Canadian Immigration Institute, if you want to subscribe to the course, obviously if I post it in the comments, you're not going to be able to see it. So if you just send me an email right here to mholthy@stringham.ca and just let me know that you want access to the 50% off coupon, I will take this amount right here, this $497, and it will become $248.50 for a lifetime access. Okay, so that's a special offer I give to all you guys who are tuning in and watching this live. And I also want to remind everyone once again that mholthy@stringham.ca is the email that you send your questions to. And then when you put EE Live Q&A in the subject line, you're in a great position then to be able to get your question answered for the next episode. All right, guys, Mark Holthy here, signing off. A Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, wishing all of you the very best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry. Take care.